So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiancé Okay. I'm Mr. O, and today, Miss H and I will be discussing Season 7, Tell-All Part 3 of Happily Ever After. In this episode, everyone thinks Usman is a scammer, Jenny and Sumit make a lot of headway into being undisowned, the script is flipped as Bilal baby proposes to Shaeeda, Ed continues to suck all the joy out of every room, and Angela loses it over production's lodging arrangements. As always, we'll end with our Students of the Week, class dances, and life lessons. If you also watch Love After Lockup, you should listen to our other channel, Love After Lockup UK, where we are covering the new season of Love After Lockup. Alright, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy.
Hello, Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you today on this fine Martin Luther King holiday?
It's a day off, so I'm doing good. That's all. It's always right? A good thing. Not a real day off. Not one of those days off where I still have to work all day. Like a good day off.
I have to work all day, I feel like, other than this. But I mean, at least I'm doing it in Maui, at least for the first half of the day. But here for a friend's wedding. But I have to grade because it's the end of the semester. So
yeah, I have to do that in 2 weeks. So like in 2 weeks episode, it's going to be like, how's it going, Mr. O? And I'll be like, grading. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's start off with a couple that we didn't hear from officially this time, but kind of had some holdover from last episode. That's Libby and Andre. So after everybody kind of confronts Ed in the holdover from last week, the other cast members kind of start to talk to Andre about his issues. So Jovi does apologize for calling him a manipulator at the bar when they were like drunk the night before, but they all agree that he should probably put a little bit more effort into at least being able to maintain civility with with Libby's family, because whether or not he wants to have a relationship with her family, she clearly does. So, except I say everybody, Andre was pretty receptive to it unless Ed said anything, and then he was like, "No, you shut up. I'm not listening to you." Which,
as he should,
as you should,
yeah.
So Jovi still maintains with his mission to get Andre to see that he's part of the problem too. But then Andre kind of brings up how, hey, I'm already kind of doing that. And he brings up the conversation he had backstage with Becky that ended in hugs. So he feels like she is the most reasonable of the family, and he's willing to work with her. So, but on the next day though, the only thing we kind of hear from them before the show is how everybody's kind of jealous that Andre's done and now he can shit talk everybody else without them being able to come back at him when it's his turn. But he doesn't end up doing that all too much. So, I mean, did we really get anything else out of here? It seems like we did see a change of heart in Andre that we started with Becky last time. He kind of is maybe seeing things a little bit differently.
Yeah, I mean, it's progress. I think that if he has a relationship with the sisters are never going to fully cut off Charlie. I mean, they might have periods of time where, they need space from him. But I think collectively, if he really ends up as good with the sisters as, let's say, he even is with Chuck right now, that he will eventually come around to making somewhat of a civil effort with Charlie. I don't think him and Charlie are ever going to be close, but I think they can at least be in the same room with one another at some point without them like verbally attacking each other.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the goal here, is to get to the point where they can be like, hey, Merry Christmas. All right, Merry Christmas. And then never say another word to each other.
Ignore each other's existence, I feel like, is an appropriate option too.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, it's just he could even be like, one room is the Andre room and one room is the Charlie room, and they never have to cross. Never do they have to cross paths. Like,
right? Yeah, I just feel like they could ignore each other's existence. Like, don't even say hi to him. Don't even, if the conversation turns to them, it's like just tune it out. Don't contribute. It's fine.
I mean, I feel like we all have certain dynamics that are like that, and Andre can learn to do that just like everybody else can.
Right. All right, so let's move on to Angela and Michael. So Sean brings up Jovi's digging for Michael's Instagram. So they confront Michael about it, and Michael denies it's his. Angela believes that, it's not exactly him because of how things are said or worded on the captions and the comments, but she does believe that maybe one of his friends is running his account for him. But he's such a liar that no one's ever going to know. Sean then hints that Michael and Usman may be in the same hotel room, which prompts the rest of the cast to joke that they could hang out, which does not make Angela happy. Angela doesn't want Michael hanging out with Usman because she believes that Usman's a bad influence. And Usman believes that Angela is controlling and he isn't afraid to say it. Usman says that Angela was the one who came out of the gate hard, calling him a scammer for no reason the first time that they met. He says that he will not allow anyone to talk to him like that. And Michael tries to get Usman to stop and tries to get them to change the subject. They're on a break from, the tell-all, and Angela calls Michael but asks him to take off his mic. She tells Michael that she's not happy that him and Usman are in the same hotel, and Michael tries to make all kinds of excuses. Angela goes back to the green room venting that she doesn't want Michael in the same hotel as Usman, and Kim says that she had no idea that they were, in the same building. Back in Lagos, Michael says that he's met up with Usman in the past, and Michael says that he wants peace, so he needs to work things out with Usman. Michael goes to find Usman to talk to him, but, then we kind of leave it on a cliffhanger. Okay, do you really think it's that terrible that Michael and Usman hang out?
No, it's absurd because, she literally spent the night before hanging out with everybody else.
Yeah.
Right? And, this is the only person he has to hang out with because they're the only two that are in Nigeria.
Right.
It wouldn't surprise me if Michael was like, listen, production told me I had to hang out with Usman. They need footage of the two of us hanging out. We have to do it. Right? And that says something too. She was super mad that they were in the same building.
Right.
How dare you be in the same building? He didn't buy that hotel room. He didn't pick anything.
Yeah. Well, do you agree with Angela's concerns? Because she's so concerned that Michael feels somewhat empowered by hanging out with Usman to, be one with his super fans and possibly take things too far.
So that's also kind of like a dig at Kim, right? Oh, I see. You're going to treat me like you treat, my husband's going to treat me like Usman treats you, and that's unacceptable. You should. I couldn't deal with that. You're weak for taking it, right? Basically is what it sounds like. And I don't know. Is hanging out with Big Ed going to make Angela more of a liar? I don't know. How are you talking about? He's his own person with his own personality. That doesn't mean he's going to be, it's just if he's so easily influenced, then why do you want to be with him? If he has no personality that he's just not influenced by everyone who is around him. I don't understand having that little, belief in my partner. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But here's the thing that gets me about them being in the same place, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like when I watch CNN or I watch, PBS or I watch the news, I'm watching the news, right? They'll have people in the most ridiculous locations in war zones, right? In the middle of Afghanistan, we're in Ukraine in the middle of a war zone, things are going on. And they have these feeds that are crystal clear HD feeds. that are live on the news. I'm like, why can the news do this? And when we get to this show, it's like a vertical picture of Usman glitching out all the time. I feel like we can do better on this live feed with all the money they have.
Yeah, maybe they just don't have that kind of equipment. Maybe everything is over, their internet and it's reliant on the internet.
Yeah,
speed.
To me, it just makes it look like, are you just trying to make Nigeria look bad? This is all we got. This is the best internet in Nigeria. Glitchy, glitch. Delayed, lagging glitch. That's what we got. And especially because Usman's in the room, literally across the hall from Michael. As I saw him, he's better. Michael's is still bad. It's I'm very confused by how this whole thing works.
Yeah, based on their backgrounds, that they were, speaking in front of, I would never have guessed they were in the same building. It wasn't matching at all.
No, but when we kind of see the Angela, confronting Michael and we see him get up and stuff, it's basically just a blanket that they have hung from the wall behind him. That's the background.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
Also, why did Angela make Michael turn off his microphone so that she can call him on camera? And we still heard everything he said.
Right? Yeah.
Very confusing.
I don't know.
All right. So those are the people we kind of hit up short-wise. And then we had the couples that we actually get to focus on today. Well, mostly. And the first one I want to talk about is Jenny and Sumit, even though they were the last ones we talked about in the episode. So Jenny hopes that she goes first, actually, before the show starts. But they don't. They go like third, fourth, or whatever. So they aren't together. And this is the most time they spent apart in 3 years. So Sean starts by asking if they're codependent, and they're both like, yeah, he does everything for me, and he can't be happy without her there. And they like smile and say they are codependent as if it was a good thing. So then they show us some recaps of Sumit's plan to adopt a child to appease his parents. So Jenny doesn't have any idea where this idea came from, and it's certainly a non-starter with her. So she doesn't know why he even threw it out there. But she says he probably didn't even mean it. He just kind of says to his family whatever they want to hear if it's going to, get them closer to being in their good graces. He more or less confirms this theory and straight up tells Ed, like when Ed asks, well, do you want a baby? He says, no, I don't want one. That was a lie to my family. I was lying to my family and not to Jenny when I was talking about not wanting babies. But Ed doesn't believe him. So Yara says that he might want kids, but maybe is afraid of her reaction both in India and right now. So they move on after just kind of a little bit of back and forth about the baby stuff. So what they do move on to is remote with his father Anil, his brother Amit, and his sister-in-law Shri. So his mom was unwilling to join the conversation. So Shri says that as far as, her and her husband Amit and Jenny and Sumit goes, they're getting along better. They're at least in a place where they're not like shunned from them. They can be together, the four of them. But their mom and dad are right now still in the same place where, Sumit does not get to see us. So Anil says, it's not really true that they're completely shunned because his mom is willing to talk sometimes gently and sweetly to Sumit. So Sean asks why she didn't want to participate today then, and it's still because she cannot accept the relationship. So they revisit the last tell-all where Sumit was supposed to tell them that he and Jenny were married, but totally chickens out when the parents were like, no, we wouldn't accept it and we would disown him. He was like, you don't want to say anything? So the family says that they were shocked that Sumit kept the marriage from his family, which made the whole situation worse and made his mom feel betrayed. But they also say, so I'm taking what they say with a grain of salt, because they also say that had mom known about the wedding, she wouldn't have tried to stop it, since their family is all rational people. Sumit, though, is kind of on my side. He's imagining that if his mom knew about the wedding, that she would show up and grab him by the ear and take him away.
Yeah.
So he says that now that things are finished and the marriage is done, he just wants acceptance. So Sean then asks Anil, after they've been married for a year now, does he finally accept and bless this marriage? So she asks him like 3 different ways in 3 different times, and he just like sits there in silence. It's awkward silence. So Sumit chimes in to say that he's never going to give up getting their blessing. And then Anil finally speaks up to say that he gives his blessing because there's nothing I can do about it now. So yes, blessing. So this is thrilling news to Jenny, though. Shri and Amit also say they accept Jenny, but she still can't be invited to any family events because the family events are organized by mom, who is still pretty far away from accepting everything. And they don't anticipate she ever will. So Jenny's okay with that situation because that's more or less what she was, more or less the best that she could have expected. Like, you won't disown your son anymore, even if I'm not invited. She's like, fine, I won't go. So Sumit will go to the family things without her. So even though Jenny's okay with it, some of the other cast members still have things to say about it. Libby thinks it's ridiculous that she wouldn't be invited. And Ed thinks it's unacceptable of Sumit to visit any place without her spouse, because Ed himself was willing to throw his mom into the garbage so he could be with Liz.
I know, right? Ed, you're an idiot.
So that's what everyone should do. Usman gives a foreigner's perspective, mostly about how important it is that there be no friction between children and their parents, which comports with his story. So Kim says, they should just keep going and stick with it because she never thought she'd get Usman's mom's blessing, but she did. So they go to then they talk about the visa conversation where Jenny wanted Sumit to come to America. And Jenny has not yet filed for Sumit's visa, which she says she won't do until he actually agrees that he wants to come to America. He doesn't want to come. And they ask him about that. And he said he's willing to visit America, but has no intention of ever wanting to come permanently. All right. So all that said, are you surprised that Sumit's dad relented and accepted the marriage or whatever?
I actually am kind of surprised. I mean, I always kind of suspected a little bit that, you know, with the parents that they were just doing it for a storyline and they were kind of in on it and they, you know, weren't giving their blessing because it was part of it. But then magically at the end of the season, they would just have their blessing, right? But the fact that mom stopped appearing on the show kind of made me feel like maybe this isn't as scripted as I thought it was. And maybe they genuinely are not blessing this marriage. So just because mom didn't show up, that was why it surprised me that dad is now blessing it. But yeah, it's good for them. And I mean, I'm happy they got to that place. And I mean, to Jenny's credit, she doesn't want to go to those family things anyway. They make her uncomfortable. So
right. Or she want to go so mom can yell at me about my cleanliness. I'm not doing that. I'd rather not go. Thanks. This is great.
It's like, if that's like, you know, the worst of it, it's like, well, it seems like a win-win on everybody's part.
Yeah. I mean, I was a little surprised that I thought the parents would be a united front. Like they would both accept it or they would both continue to reject it. And that just seems like kind of like weird. Like, is he now going to try to convince his wife to try the thing? And is he like, well, I accept it? Or is he just like hiding behind her and be like, sorry, guys, can't do anything. I think it's fine, but your damn mom can't do anything about that. Where he really would rather not accept it, but now he doesn't have to not accept it because mom's willing to be the hard ass, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to say because it's like I thought they were more of a patriarchal, you know, structure but I mean, there's lots of situations where it's like the women really wear the pants, you know?
Oh, what do they keep saying? That's what the Nigerian one, the Nigerian ones that keep saying the man is the head and the woman's the neck.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So, you know, you never know. You never know.
Yeah,
because even within cultures, like even if it's culturally like that, it's almost like that's the cultural image of it, but that's not necessarily how it is behind closed doors.
Yes, yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, but we got like, I mean, was it too? It just made me also feel like the other storylines here were more or less fake because they were both like, oh yeah, no, that's not happening. Like the baby and the visa, right? They're like, let's revisit the baby situation. There was no argument. And so it was just like, yeah, no, there's not going to be a baby. Like, no, done.
Yeah, but also I can kind of just see Sumit just saying crap like that because he's really just trying to throw everything in like, how can I make things better? Baby, yes, I will throw that in. Are we forgiven? Are we blessed?
Oh, and then it was like, and when the answer's no, not really, it's like, all right, I rescind, baby. What else can I give you?
Let's go on with the next thing.
Let's go with the next thing. Right.
Yeah. Speaking of the next thing and babies, let's talk Bilal and Shaeeda. So Shaeeda tells Yara that Yara has prepared her to confront Bilal about the issues in their relationship. Shaeeda thinks that Ed will come after her the next day because he's called her a gold digger in the past. Yara assures her that no matter what, she has her back. On the set, Shaeeda says that she is ready to get murdered today because she's really feeling the heat. We revisit the 9-month ultimatum that Shaeeda had given Bilal, and Bilal says that they've kind of been trying for a baby. They've tried a couple of times. Everyone is surprised that Bilal conceded. Bilal says that seeing how emotional she was over the issue helped put things in perspective. We then see a never-before-seen clip about going to an herbalist for fertility reasons. Bilal then says he hasn't had sex or masturbated for years, so he gets herbs for his prostate. The herbalist then talks about edging to get more volume. Bilal was definitely uncomfortable with all the questions and this whole conversation. Bilal says he's got build-up, so he doesn't need to edge. Now that Bilal is on board, it seems that Shaeeda may have changed her mind. Shaeeda says she just doesn't want to put too much focus on baby making. Instead, she wants to focus on her business and herself. Shaeeda has been excited about the kind of opportunities that have come up with her business. She then brings up concerns that Bilal is keeping finances separate and he's not even open to opening a joint account. Bilal says that Shaeeda doesn't hold on to money long. Shaeeda says she doesn't even know how much he makes, which surprises almost everyone on stage. Libby says that marriage means total transparency. And Shaeeda feels like Bilal doesn't trust her, and why would she want a baby with someone who doesn't trust her? Bilal says that he wants to teach her how to be good with money, but he doesn't want to be accused of lecturing again. Shaeeda tells us how cheap Bilal is, making her sneak in snacks at the movies. And then Ed defends Bilal, saying that Shaeeda does need to be taught about money. And Yara says that she's an adult. She doesn't need to be taught anything. Shaeeda says that Bilal mansplains everything. We then get a special guest, a friend we have never heard about, mentioned, or referred to before. And I even question how well he actually knows Bilal. But
I thought he was at the wedding.
He wasn't at the wedding?
I think he was at the wedding.
Oh, well,
I think we saw him at the wedding.
Well, good for that. So it's Bilal's friend for over 20 years, Chris. The reason why I say that is because Chris's whole segment was really just speaking generically, nothing specific about Bilal and Shaeeda. Chris says that Bilal has a good sense of humor, but then Shaeeda brings up, the prank, the infamous prank where Bilal pretends to be poor. Chris defends Bilal's mansplaining, saying that why shouldn't she want to learn something? And then we bring in Utris, Shaeeda's friend. Utris then comes on and tells us that she thinks that Bilal micromanages and he's not transparent about anything. Utris says that Shaeeda is willing to learn, just maybe there's an issue with the methodology in which Bilal is trying to teach her. Chris then gets weirdly fired up, trying to defend Bilal and men everywhere.
And all men he's defending.
Men everywhere. I was like, what is happening right now? And then, of course, idiot Ed, defends Chris and Bilal. Sean then asks about Utris's plan to make an oopsie baby. And Bilal says, that's messed up. Ed then says, you don't play around with pregnancy. And even Kim says, yeah, that's shady. Chris thinks that Utris shouldn't be giving advice when she doesn't even have a husband. Chris thinks that Utris, because she's single, is trying to sabotage their relationship with her advice. The women on stage respectfully tell Utris that maybe that advice wasn't good. Shaeeda says that the baby will wait, and Bilal says that they fought last time that they were in New York, and he wants this time to be better. So even though Shaeeda says the baby will wait, he decides to get down on one knee with a baby onesie, asking if she will have a baby with him. Shaeeda cries and gets really excited after that, and she says that, yes, this formal proposing of a baby changes the timeline, and she wants to try, and she hopes that she gets pregnant very soon. And then Chris chimes in with, well, Christopher is a great baby's middle name. Mm-hmm. All right, so out of, if you're Team Chris or Team Utris.
Oh, that's okay. That's very good evidence that just because one person is wrong doesn't mean the other person in the argument is right.
You're like Team Nobody.
Team Nobody. Like it's team like men should control all the money versus team women should trick men into getting them pregnant. These are both
so who is
bad
worse
teams
then?
to be on.
Okay, so which one's worse if we're gonna pose it that way?
I mean, definitely. I don't know. I think. Oh man, I was actually okay with Christopher when he was talking about their situation specifically. When he was talking specifically about, he's got a particular sense of humor that isn't mine, but it is a sense of humor that you have to get along with. But then as soon as he's like, I'm defending all men, like it. And the thing is like the defenders of all men, like the people you see online that are kind of the same thing, they always are super misogynistic. Women are just after our money and they want to take our shit and they're not going to even give us our proper due where we belong at the head. If they're going to take our shit, they should at least admit that we're at the top of the food chain. Like they're these kind of people, right? But one of the things they super do is they also think that you got to be careful with women because they'll trick you into getting them pregnant, and then you're stuck with them and they've got you by the balls. And it's like, and then you have Uterus who was like, yes, that is what I would do. I would trick you into getting me pregnant. It's like, no, none of you're all awful.
It just was weird to me, and it really, really just like turned me off of Chris. As soon as Uterus got on, all of a sudden, it was like he switched. He dialed it up. Like, he was real angry and like on a mission to defend men. And I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah, that was I'm with you. As soon as Christopher switched to I'm defending all men, I was like, oh no. This is bad. This is not good. Please don't speak for me, Christopher. No. Because the things he was defending at the time, it was before the pregnancy came up, was like, yeah, the men should control the finances. And why does she need to see him at all? Like, it's like, because you're partners? Like, they were very much like, and they just have this weird thing of like, the man should be the leader. The woman should be the follower. And that's the way it's supposed to be. And like, now these women want to not be the follower and also take men's money. And it's like, this is just misogynistic bullshit that you're spouting out from the internet or whatever.
Yeah, it does make me wonder a little bit if this is like a religious thing on their part. Like if Chris and Bilal are friends because they're both the same religion. They're all Muslim.
Right.
But if that's like a maybe religious thing, and I'm not even saying specific to Muslim because I think other religions kind of.
Oh, there's certain sects of Christianity that have the same idea.
Husbands are the head of the household because that was in the Bible, kind of like philosophies. So I wonder a little bit if it's religion that's like kind of like backing them up and supporting.
Well,
like
it's definitely not backing up
managing.
Ed for supporting the same thing.
Right.
But okay, so there's a couple of other things that came up, and it was funny because he was like, what it seems like is Bilal definitely took to heart that he shouldn't lecture Shaeeda. So he switched. Good. So he switched pedagogical methods and wants her to use self-discovery instead.
Yeah, and too bad like Discovery is like still and it sucks though because Discovery he's not really even letting her discover really because he's using that as like a reward for learning, right? You get the joint bank account if you learn. But it's like, but then she's not learning according to you. I mean, so she'll never get the reward.
The thing is, he treats her, and that's where it comes down to with the teaching, is he's treating her like she's a child. I do that to my kids all the time. Well, if we bought 3 of these jars and it's 3 for $5, well, how much are we paying for each jar? Like you do that things when you're at the grocery store, right? You use those teachable moments when you're for your children, not for your partner. Like, right. And it's like that's the same thing. Just tell her, and I can see where there's obviously things that he has that he knows that she doesn't, that he can teach her. And that's true of literally every relationship, right? Every relationship you're in, you know different things. Each person has something to learn from the other person. And that's fantastic and that's great. I love learning. But as an adult, I get to decide what I want to learn and not have you decide that I get to learn something for me, right? And if I was like, how much, like she mentioned that, how much is that house? Well, he's like, well, how many square feet do you think it is? Well,
oh my gosh, I know.
If he would have said, well, it's like, it's 3,000 square feet. It's going to be like $12.34 per square foot. So it's probably about this much. He explains his process to it, right?
Right.
Because I feel like it kind of made me think about, we've talked about, your exes and stuff, but there was one that you have is like the worst person ever because I felt like he did this all the time. Like he was like, well, you need to know this. You don't know this? Well, it must be my job to teach this to you. You must know these things that I know. And it's like, that's annoying as hell and belittling.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because it's like they treat you like you don't know anything. And maybe you don't know that specific thing, but that means it's not that you don't know nothing.
Right. And you're still in a partnership and any kind of partner. Forget relationship. If I go into business with somebody, we have different areas of expertise. We have things to learn from each other, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like one is the student and one is the master, right? Whereas Bilal is like, I am the master and you are the student. And when you learn enough, instead of be giving a black belt, you will be given access to a joint bank account.
Right. Yeah. It's like, exactly. How are you assessing this person?
Right. And then it goes to the other thing that I could not get over when we read it. Okay. So when we got to it is the edging thing, right?
Oh, gosh.
There is no way Andre was the only person on stage who knew what that was.
Yeah, that was really weird. Maybe it's that they hadn't heard it called that specifically before.
Possible. But then they were all like, what? Why would you? How would this even? Why would people do that? Like,
yeah.
It was like.
I mean, I could see how maybe they haven't tried it before.
Yes, I certainly can understand people who've been like, I've heard of that. That sounds not fun, and I didn't do it.
Sure. What's his face? Sumit has heard of it because they went to that tantric sex workshop during their season. So.
Right? It's one of those pet peeves I have of the tell-alls is when something like that comes up that is like just the varied shade of vanilla, right? It's not vanilla sex, but it's like we just added just a little bit of chocolate syrup or something, just a little bit of flavor, and everybody's like, what? Who has ever heard of anything like this? And you're like, come on, guys. Like, we know you're either the lamest person imaginable or you're all pretending.
Yeah. Very uncomfortable.
All right.
I was like, I don't like this.
I mean, now granted, the herbal guy, very uncomfortable. Like, and part of it, I don't know, part of what made it uncomfortable is like the way they were kind of speaking in code is I'm like, right. I feel like putting me in that situation, you wouldn't want it on camera because I was like, oh, this is what we're doing. We're making each other feel uncomfortable. I will tell you exactly what's going on then, buddy.
Oh, gosh. Oh, goodness.
So we do get more of that. So you ready to go to the next one?
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Kim and Usman then. All right, so we do get a little bit of a preview about, what's going to go on. We see Kim talking to Liz the night before at the bar. So Liz is worried about how things are going to go tomorrow. And she's worried that something new is going to come out, that Usman has done, and that she's going to go all Tasmanian devil on the studio if that does happen. So when they get to the studio in the morning, Kim tells us that she is the one that broke up with him, and she's ready for all the fires is going to come her way. So when day 2 finally starts, we'll talk about it later. We get through Ed's apologies to everybody, and we get to them. So we start by asking about their relationship status, and Kim says they're done, and they're done for good, even though she still loves them and they still talk and text all the time. Usman says that he still loves her too, but things just didn't work out and they had to give up. So he says that the thing that was the deal breaker and made things not work was the issue of him having a child, which they just couldn't find a solution for. So they're both pretty clear that it was Kim that ended things over the issue. So they bring out Jamal and they get him to say some stuff backstage about how he thinks Usman was a psycho guilt-tripping Kim, and he's hoping that she can see it, setting the stage for some possible fireworks. Then they introduce him, and this is the part that bothered me about the tell-all, because after they introduce him, a minute and 24 seconds later, and a commercial break in the middle, we finally hear him talk. So he answers the first question. They ask, like, what did you want to say anything to Usman? So basically he tells Usman, I told you so. I knew you would break up, and look at it. So Jamal knows that it was Kim officially that ended things, but that's only because Usman didn't want to pull the trigger and kind of just guilt-tripped her until she finally was the one to call it. So he thinks that Usman only cared about the things that Kim could give him, and then refuses to engage when Usman starts yelling. When Usman starts yelling fast talk over him. How Usman does that thing where he starts talking really fast. Yeah. Like, oh, and you didn't do this. So he refuses to engage. He is just like, why are you always talking over me? So Ed brings up what he calls the elephant in the room, that Usman comes off as an opportunist that is using this situation to promote his music career. But Usman said, I wouldn't spend 3 years on this if it was a scam. But Andre actually agrees with Ed and calls Usman a scammer too. But Kim wants to step up and defend him, but saying that, they weren't there for everything. You didn't see our private moments, 5 a.m. in bed. And they asked Jamal what they think of his intent, what Usman's intentions were. And he starts off by, how Usman kind of mistreated her. First off, even how the relationship started, how he wouldn't even agree or made her a potential after she was completely head over heels in love with him. So he I already know I have this fish on the hook, and now we'll think about maybe we want a relationship. So anyway, once it was no risk. And once that happened, he could ask a lot out of her. So Usman starts yelling about the child again, like, it's not her fault she's gonna give me child. And Jamal says, stop talking over me. So he thinks that Usman is only here to play his mom and to stay relevant, and basically everybody on stage agrees. So, well, everybody but Kim. She says she's seen too much, and if he could act that well for that long, he'd be an Oscar winner after all their private moments. So Jenny and Shaeeda then kind of speak up with basically the same point. This guy clearly cares for you, but he's not interested in you being his wife or being romantically involved with you. So Usman counters this by saying, but we have sex. How can you have sex with someone you don't love? A sentiment that gets chuckles out of everyone on stage. Like Sean, everybody is just holding back giggles at the idea that you cannot have sex with someone you don't love. So he sticks to his guns here. And then Sean points out, well, if that's the case, then how would you be able to make a baby with this second wife that you wanted? You know, especially because you would have to love her too, right? He says, yeah, definitely. Even though it seems like he repeatedly promised Kim that she would get all of the love in the relationship. So he says, you just don't understand how we do things here. You can't understand unless you experience Northern Nigeria. So we get shown again his meeting with the potential second wife, Faridi. This is the first time Kim has seen this, and she gets really upset that they exchange numbers. So when the recap ends, Usman just again starts yelling about the child and you don't understand, blah, 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 until even Liz tells him to shut up. And like Liz, well, I guess she tells Ed to shut up a lot. So, you know, we hear that. So Sean asks Usman if he ever reached out to Faridit, and instead of answering, he tells us the story about why he met her in the first place. So Kim says that in this relationship, she had to prove herself over and over and over again, but she's done doing that. Then he goes through what he had to do to prove himself, like saying he's sorry when he wasn't even wrong. And Kim says that there's no chance of rekindling this relationship, but she'll always be there to support him and she'll always be a super fan. She actually breaks up talking about it and then gets a big hug from Jamal before they dismiss him from the stage. So backstage, she feels like Kings didn't go like she wanted. They don't really know Usman, but she's glad her part was over. And she was, really hurt that they thought that Usman didn't love her. So that's what we got out of there. So I feel like this was kind of the pile on Usman show. And I don't know, but he did anything to redeem himself. I think it didn't go so well for him. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Usman it doesn't help that he kind of got really fired up at the end. It's like that's not helping your case. And also his excuses, I guess, or reasons were definitely shot down by everyone. Like everyone just laughed at him when it was like, well, I had sex with her, so obviously I love her. And they're just kind of like, and then it really started to unravel when he was like defending, they started having the debate whether or not he would impregnate a second wife and what that meant. And so I just really feel like he was just, I don't think he really understands his argument. And so it was definitely not coming across as, I don't know, in his favor, logically speaking, at least. I mean,
if I was giving him the most generous interpretation, is that they just kind of have, when he says love and wherever it comes from, his culture, wherever, he just means something completely different than what everybody on stage means when they say that, right?
Yeah.
Like most of the people on stage kind of take love for granted as being you're allowed to love one person and you have to be completely in love with them. And that means, and he was just like, well, whereas like, I think he means like love means, well, I was, willing to have sex with them. That's love, right? That counts. So I cared about them enough that I wanted to have a physical relationship with them. That must be love. Like, and I don't know if that's a cultural thing or if that's just him playing dumb.
Yeah, I don't know, because it is weird to me, like just how he views sex in general, right? So it's that at first it was like, well, I can only have marital relations, right? And we're going to assume that you're in love with the person that you have marital relations. But then he seemed to be like, well, I don't want to lose Kim, so I'm going to have sex with her. And it's like, but is that because you didn't want to lose her or because you actually loved her?
Right.
And now you're going to have sex for the sole purpose of procreation with someone else, does that mean you love her or you're trying to have a baby? So it's just, I don't know. It's just not consistent. It seems like why he wants to have sex. And so it just, I don't know. I just feel like he can't use that as a reason for anything, right? It's fine if that's what you believe. And I'm sure it's fine. It's probably one of those fluid things where maybe there's different motivations for different situations, but you can't say that that's the reason why you weren't scamming.
No, and that's just, to me, it's just, every time he does it, it comes off as ridiculous, right? Because it's like, especially the Western way of framing how sex works in a relationship, right? Which is usually the guy wants it, right? The guy wants the sex. And in this case, we saw definitely, it was certainly her that was pushing for it more than him, right?
Sure.
But it's kind of like, like, how could I be scamming her? She gave me $5. Like, she gave me money. That means I can't be like, it's, you know what I'm saying? It's like ridiculous to be like, I couldn't be scamming her because I got an additional thing out of this relationship. It's like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, yes, you could be scamming her. Yes, sex could be part of the scam. You're getting something bonus out of that. Like, it just, and that's why kind of like the way he always frames it like that is, went in my head, because the way I think about that is he was like, listen, I had sex with you when I didn't want to. I didn't want to have sex with you, but I did anyway. And so that was my compromise in the relationship. And I think he takes that as I wanted it to be part of my religion. It should have been part of marriage. It should have been part of that, blah, 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 blah. But in my head, I always just heard, because you're too ugly to have sex with.
Right? You should be so lucky. Who's scamming who?
Yeah, exactly. Like, who's getting the hotter person in this relationship? It's you. Obviously, you're the scammer. But it just, it fell apart. And then everything just came down to him screaming about, like, she can't give me a baby. And I don't know that, and we, especially because we move on from that, we're like, yeah, she couldn't. That's why she broke up with you, because you kept yelling about her not being able to give you a baby. So you can't count that as a sacrifice or anything anymore, because they always went to that sacrifice Olympics. Yeah. But I mean, I really like that Jamal response was always like, why are you yelling? Why are you yelling over me?
Yeah, I mean, Jamal has that way just in general. We saw it when he was visiting himself. Like, he tries to calm Usman down. He definitely seems to be more level-headed than everyone else in their segments. So, yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
No, not at all. Not at all.
All right. I guess not so surprising either is Ed's behavior. So let's kind of wrap it up with them. So Angela comes in. Remember, she came in hot, marching up to Ed, but it ends up that she just came in hot to have a heart-to-heart with Ed and ask him, what's he doing? Andre backs her up and says what he did was wrong. Angela comes at it by saying, he's a good guy, but what he's doing to Liz is wrong. Ed says he doesn't know how to be in a relationship, and Angela says that means he needs to not be in a relationship and just leave her alone. Jovi tells him to talk to her and be real with her, but don't talk to her like he has been. That's disrespectful. And Ed defends himself, saying that he only does that when he feels cornered and people are ganging up on him. Bilal gives Ed some advice on how to just apologize and accept when he's being told off. Meanwhile, the women are listening to Liz and telling her that Ed was acting like it was everyone else's fault. Liz says that there's a side to Ed that people just don't see. And Kim says that she believes it because she also thinks that people don't know Usman the way that she does. Bilal was told by Ed that Liz has taken some low blows talking about his manhood. And he relayed that information to Shaeeda, trying to let her know that Ed isn't the only one who says shit in that relationship. Ed comes back to set the day after, saying he needs to clean up his mess, and he may not ever give Liz the ring back. He tells the rest of the cast that he apologized to Liz last night, but he also wanted to apologize to all of them. But immediately, Kim interrupts him to say that his apology was fake as fuck, and Ed goes on the defense immediately. They have a back and forth about owning their own shit. And then Shaeeda says that in order to get loyalty, he needs to give loyalty. But then Ed defends himself, saying that Liz basically kicked him when he was down. They wonder where Liz is, and Ed doesn't know because he wants to give her her space. Liz says that she's had time to process what happened yesterday, and now she's pissed. Pissed that Ed is denying his dating app activity, and it became about his feelings, and once she gets upset and cries, he accuses her of performing. On set, Sean opens the tell-all, and Liz says that Ed's apology was half-assed, and he denies it, and they haven't talked since. Angela says that a sorry should be from a sincere place. That means he'll never do it again. And Ed claims that he was sorry. At the break, Liz shows everyone that she is wearing a meaningless ring on her finger because it feels naked without her engagement ring. Ed then tries to defend his apology from the day before, and Liz says that she has a right to feel her hurt. He then tries to defend his actions, and Liz says that he needs to own up to his actions, like talking to Rose the day before proposing to her. She walks out, and Ed just doesn't like that, and Jenny says that Liz has the right to be upset, so just let her go. Ed then lashes out at Jenny, and they both say that the other's relationship just doesn't make sense. Ed denies that he was on a dating app, but Ed jumps on Jenny, saying that she's rude, and then everyone jumps in to defend Jenny as she also walks out. Shaeeda goes to talk to Liz and says that she needs to teach him to treat her right. Liz says that they won't make any progress until Ed owns up to what he's done. Liz then pulls up receipts to prove her side. She shows Shaeeda and Kim his profile that was active 2 hours ago. Ed asks to see it and then throws out excuses like, it's not him. He made that profile a year and a half ago. He doesn't have access to it, etc., etc., etc. And then he says that she can't prove it, but then he's unwilling to actually go get his laptop when she requests it to kind of see if it's on his computer to begin with. All right, so do you think Ed's behavior has improved at all?
No. Ed is just, yeah, he's always pretending. And I said this last time when he said something to Liz about like, you're performing. And it's like, no, that's telling on yourself. Ed's projection. Ed's performing. Yeah. He's always performing. He never actually seriously internalizes anything anybody tells him, as much as he just like, okay, put this in the bank to figure out like how I can manipulate the conversation next time. That's all he does, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, because we see him here using, the one the one at the end was the one that got me, right? Not like it all got me. He's just an asshole all the time. Yeah. But there were two things specifically that really like upset me. One of them was at the end there, with they caught him with the dating app. Right. He used what's known as kettle logic. Have you ever heard of kettle logic?
No.
All right. Kettle logic is it comes from a story where somebody you loaned a kettle to somebody and they returned it and it was broken, right? And you're like, dude, you broke my kettle, right? And they give you 3 reasons why that can't be true. 1, I returned it and it wasn't broken. 2, it was already broken when you gave it to me. And 3, I never even borrowed your kettle, right? Right. Yeah. Right? They're all things that like those all the excuses you gave can't all be true. Like they're canceling each other out.
Yeah. Like, he just started throwing out all these reasons. And I'm just like, what the heck is going on? Like, first you're basically denying it's you. Then you're like, oh, it is me. But that was from a year and a half ago. And then it's like, oh, that is me, but I can't even get in. I don't even know. Oh, it wasn't me. It wasn't me at all.
It wasn't me. I can't get into that account, which is a year and a half old, that I did mine. And like, so he's just at no point is he ever, like I said, he's just trying to grab onto everything he has to manipulate people. And like, and the other example, the second thing that bothered me is when he like yelled at Jenny for no reason. Yeah. Jenny was like, said something that was, I forget exactly what she said.
She just said to him, you're rude. Or no. She didn't even say that. He said that to her.
He said that she was rude. Yeah. It's like she said something that was like, wow, you're really not handling this situation well or something. Well, you just stop. You're being really rude. You're being rude.
She said, Liz has the right to be upset. That's all she said. Because Liz walked out and he was like, oh, and she was like, well, let her be upset. Like she's, let her, like it's her right to. And then he jumps on her for that. And I'm just like,
but he jumped on her for things that didn't make sense. Like, because, you're being rude. She wasn't rude. Like
No, she
whatever
wasn't.
she was, it wasn't. You might say that's none of your business or something like
Right.
that. And I have a thing, but like to say that was rude, you need to apologize to me for being rude to me. And she's like, what are you even talking about? I wasn't even rude to you. I said it in like the nicest like thing, especially for somebody like him who steps out of his lane repeatedly.
All the time.
All the time. And he always does it for like just the most like ridiculous reasons. Yes, that man is right that the man should control all the money. Yes, you are. Yes, that thing you just said about how you don't want babies must be a lie. Like nobody else said it was a lie to Sumit. Like he just is coming out of nowhere for everybody. But anybody comes even remotely to him and he's oh, there's a third thing that bothered me the most about him that I noticed this time. At the beginning when he was yelling at Kim, he was facing away from her. Like he wouldn't even look at her. He was like yelling at her the whole time, like looking directly away from her. Like she was behind him and he was just like talking to the space in front of him. It was so weird.
Gosh. Yeah, but he's been doing that this whole tell-all. Like even when he's on the couch, he's like like head up, like not even just eyes up, head up, looking at the ceiling when he's talking to anyone. Like even Liz, who's sitting right next to him, he can't even look at her.
And I'm surprised that somebody hasn't said, "Why aren't you looking at me when you're talking to me?"
Right.
I'm surprised someone hasn't said that to him yet.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I get it because I think he has a bit of like a lazy eye, so maybe he's like,
okay, but this isn't a
thing. But it's like he's not even turned towards anyone he's talking to.
Yeah, which makes him look. I mean, as much as I know this is true for other reasons, he's a complete coward. Like he's confronting them without actually having to confront them. He doesn't have to look at them. He doesn't have to see their face. He's like, I'm gonna say it's the closest he can get on this stage to being an internet troll, which is all he is.
Right, absolutely. All right, so out of everyone, who would you say is your student of the week?
I gave it to Jamal just because I just want people to have more argument. Just when somebody yells over you, just stay calm and just be like, you keep yelling over me. I don't get to finish my thoughts. Like, end of the story. Because, and that's the way, and we can see that because we saw an angry person who got completely disarmed. And that's one of the first times we've seen somebody who, I'm going to take over this situation with anger and loud talking and yelling and drive it where I want it to go. And it did not go where he wanted it to go.
Yeah. I actually went with Libby. I know she's barely in it. She really is because, she's pregnant and, virtual. But she made a couple comments that were like mic drops. It's like, yeah, okay. So I was like, she positively contributed to this tell.
All right.
All right. What about your dunce?
I went with Bilal. Ed was taken. I did Ed last week. I'm trying to avoid saying Ed every week.
Ed double dunce. I did not triple dunce it this time, though.
Okay. But so I went Bilal just for the I don't lecture anymore. Instead, I try to teach my wife. Just stop, man. Just stop. Stop trying to teach your wife things she doesn't want to learn.
Right. I went Bilal adjacent, Chris. It's like, this is the guy you want to defend you and be on your side. I was like, no.
Oh, my God.
This is the worst
Random
person.
men's rights things getting red pill stuff getting yelled at on stage.
It's like, I don't know,
Yeah.
Bilal. I don't think you want this guy's a reflection of you. I don't think that's the look you're going for.
Of course, Ed was all in. Ed was like, yeah, this guy. I'm going to subscribe to his newsletter. This guy's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Okay, what about your life lesson?
All right. So it's important to recognize before flying off the handle, as is, this show, what is and is out of the person's control. Right. And this goes beyond relationships. A lot of times, yelling at a clerk because something's not available. It's like, that's not in their control. You can't be mad at somebody for something that isn't even in their control. Like Michael did not pick his hotel and he did not purposely pick the same hotel as Usman.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So my life lesson kind of goes for a lot of these because it's almost like they started alliances with one another. Like, I got your back. I got your back. I got your back. I'm going to defend you. And it's like, you shouldn't either make that promise to someone or you should maybe reframe what the definition of I got your back is. I think it's perfectly appropriate to support someone else and like emotionally be there for them. But I don't think it means that you should be fighting someone else's fight because I feel like that's kind of what started happening. It's like they would say, before the actual on set, they'd be like, I got your back. Like Bilal and Ed saying, I got your back. But then Ed's like jumping in, trying to, fight Bilal's fight for him. And it's just like, no, that's not your place to do that.
Well, and especially because, I don't know, I've watched this show enough. Again, the people on stage haven't. That you haven't seen all of their scenes, and know they're going to like throw something out there that may be like, yeah, I can't get your back for that one, buddy.
Right.
Like
but Ed won't blindly defend. He doesn't care. He's practiced it on himself, like defending the things that are undefendable. Because he doesn't.
Whether things are right or wrong doesn't matter to Ed. Whether he wins or loses is important to Ed, but what's right and what's wrong doesn't matter.
Right. Loyalty. You have to defend someone even if they are wrong. Yeah.
Even if they wronged you, as we saw last time.
He demands loyalty. Yeah.
All right.
So we still got one more.
One more of these things, but we've visited every couple. So I don't know if we're just going to have more backstage drama, if there's going to be an extra thing.
Ed and Liz spillover. Oh, I will say one thing.
Yeah, they really sucked up all the oxygen in the room.
They really did. But after all that's said and done, I think they're still together.
Yeah,
so
that doesn't surprise me at all.
Right. Someone posted a picture of them pretty recently of them walking in Old Town together, like holding hands, and I think it was just over the weekend. It's just like, no, why are these people still together?
It's just, and at some point, like, as much as we hate Ed, and Ed's the worst, like, at some point it's like, no, Liz, this is your fault now. Like, you
I've said it's her fault for a while, but I
mean, not even now, but I mean, it gets worse every time, and it's like, well, if you keep, I don't know what to I don't know what to say, I don't know what to, like, and that seems like where all their family ended up. It's like, I don't know what to deal with, and then they end up alone, and then it's tough.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will be back this time next week to cover the season finale.
All right. See everybody then.
Okay. Until then.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.